Welcome to the WIHS Journal. Today we've got very special guests. This is a first for WIHS, and it's an example of the kind of unique doors God has been opening for our ministry as we are seeking to partner more than ever with other people who are making a kingdom impact in Connecticut in their calling. We've got a room full of military men. In fact, Chaplain Eichelberg of the Army National Guard, Chaplain Wismar of the Air National Guard, and Chief Matolo of the Army National Guard, of course, all based right here in Connecticut. Gentlemen, welcome to WIHS.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to get right to it to make sure we take advantage of our time. And let's just start with helping our listeners know a history of military chaplaincy and why what you're representing today is so important.
Well, thank you, Matt. The first chaplain in the United States actually predates our country, was right here in Connecticut, and that was Samuel Stone. There was a muster for the Pequot Wars back in 1637, and he was the first one called in a military capacity here in the United States, here in the colony, I think, at that point of Connecticut.
Well, that's a unique place Connecticut has in the history of the National Guard and the chaplaincy of the National Guard. How has the National Guard chaplaincy grown since then, especially in Connecticut?
We've been established since about the establishment of the country. I think the Massachusetts National Guard has that honor of being the first militia, but we were soon thereafter. And there's been chaplains ever since. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to get the quote exactly right, but the first thing that George Washington did after the first speech, when he put forth, the first legislation, was to call the first chaplain. That was the first order of business. Ever since then, each state, as the states came on, have successfully had chaplains.
That's a spiritual tie-in that goes along with many others that are related to the founding of our country, how the founders of America had God in heart and mind.
Yep.
And the military chaplaincy is just a modern example of how that's still true today.
And if I can just add to that, the National Guard is the natural outgrowth of what used to be the Minutemen, called to be in a moment's notice, ready to defend their towns and their cities from invaders. And of course, that has grown into what is the National Guard now. And we are the second compo of the United States military. And as Chaplain Wismar was saying, one of the first acts that George Washington did was call for chaplains, and he called for chaplains in every branch of the Army. He wanted chaplains to be spread abroad. So it's a pretty unique history that chaplains have with the military, but we've been here since the very beginning.
When I listen to what you're saying, it makes me realize it's an honored place that military chaplaincy has in our nation. You guys represent that, and you represent it well, may I add. Of course, our listeners don't get to hear the conversations we have before the microphones start recording, but this is really significant, the work that you guys do. So maybe that's a good segue. What is it that military chaplains do, specifically in the Connecticut National Guard?
Well, kind of continuing on from the historical conversation, one of the things they would have done right away, whether for George Washington or whoever was in command, was advise them and lead them, whether it's morally or whatever insight, ethically, what should be done. The chaplain has a unique role with commanders. And one of the reasons we have a unique role with commanders, for sure, but really with everybody, is because of our confidentiality. Commanders, but really all soldiers, airmen, service members know that they can come to the chaplain, and whatever is shared with the chaplain is kept in confidence. There are others, and we have so many great resources within the service to help members in every branch, including behavioral health and the like, but others have to up-channel, like if certain things are shared with them, like if the service member is going to be of harm to themselves, of harm to others, or something like that, there are certain things that need to be up-channeled, whereas for a chaplain, it's kept in confidence, and then you work with the person to get them the right help or attach them to the next step, whatever needs to be done. We have that special place where we like to say, what happens in the chaplain's office stays in the chaplain's office. So it's a black box, which is unique.
So we basically, TRADOC likes to refer to it as core capabilities and core competencies. Our core capabilities are to advise command and to provide religious support, and our core competencies are to care for the wounded, honor the fallen, and provide for the living. So that's, in a nutshell, what we do. But as Chaplain Wismar spoke, that has a lot of meat to it in providing for soldiers and airmen.
This is the WIHS Journal. Matt Harper with you today, joined by Chaplain Eichelberg of the Army National Guard, Chaplain Wismar of the Air National Guard, and Chief Matolo of the Army National Guard. Now, we've heard from Chaplains Eichelberg and Wismar, but Chief Matolo, you're sitting quietly and patiently to the side, and we've got just a couple minutes left, so if I could pitch this to you at least to start. Tell us why the three of you are really here today and explain what I've heard you explain, why there's such a genuine need for military chaplains in the National Guard today.
Well, thanks, Matt. I think the reason we're here is to get the word out to people that are interested in service to the Guard, whether Air or Army. Maybe they're in service in a congregation or in their town or their parish or whatever, and maybe they have another calling. And I think it's really unique that in addition to what they already do as a parishioner, they have the opportunity to affect soldiers out there and airmen that may not even be of faith yet, may not even know they have that avenue to go to. And as a chaplain, you have that ability to be that advisor to the commander, and then also that confidant to a soldier that may need that counsel. So it's a really unique opportunity, and we're just trying to get the word out because, like Chaplain Eichelberg said, we're woefully delinquent in filling the roles, and we'd like to find some good people out there that are willing to step up to the plate.
Staying with you, Chief Matolo, what are some of the common arguments that might need to be answered in the minds of pastors or ministry leaders who are qualified to do this, and they're on the fence? Maybe you could address some of what they might be asking themselves in their mind right now.
I think that some of the things that they might be asking themselves are, am I too old? Do I meet the qualifications? How am I going to balance this between my full-time requirements within my church and the Army or Air National Guard? I guess I lean back to the age. We're looking for more senior people, not senior, but senior people that have experience. So I would say let National Guard Bureau say no to you at that point. Also, as far as timing, when is there ever a great time? And it comes down to, if something's really easy, well, I think that's the time where we need to pray about it and say, okay, maybe I need to take this on further because we're forging fire, not in complacency. So if there's a challenge available, I think that's the opportunity to look forward and take it.
Yeah, Matt, I think to wrap everything that we've talked about up together is really with the fundamental reason why chaplains exist, which is to facilitate First Amendment rights for our service members so that they can practice or not practice the faith they have or don't have as they see fit. And the unique thing about the Chaplain Corps is we can't be civilian. We need to be in uniform. We need to be in the trainings that they have, to the standards that they have. We need to go where they go, whether it's here in the States or in a deployment setting. That's why we have to be in uniform. It's unique. It's a special calling. We hope there are people that are hearing this that may have that.
Matt, let me just add to that as Chaplain Wismar was saying, our job is to protect First Amendment rights, and that's not just for Christians, even though this is a Christian audience. Chaplain Wismar and I both represent the Christian faith, but we represent the religious rights of all soldiers and airmen. So I would just ask, if you are interested, the person to contact would be Chief Matolo, and his cell number is 203-410-0828. 203-410-0828.
If you're out there and you feel like God just might be leading you to join the military chaplaincy in the National Guard of Connecticut, follow up by calling this number and let God determine what may have been a great opportunity you just never considered. Thank you to Chaplain Eichelberg of the Army National Guard, Chaplain Wismar of the Air National Guard, and Chief Matolo of the Army National Guard for joining us today on the WIHS Journal, spreading the need for more chaplains in the Connecticut National Guard. The WIHS Journal is a community news and public affairs program highlighting regional current events and topics of interest, and can be heard Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 12:13 p.m. and 5:50 p.m. right here on your station for hope and encouragement. 104.9 WIHS.